Annette King.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. My question's to the Minister of Finance. How much money, if any, was appropriated to the Pacific Economic Development Agency in Budget 2010?
Mr Speaker.
Honourable Simon Power.
Mr Speaker, on behalf of the Minister of Finance, as announced on Budget Day, the budget provides $4.8 million over 4 years for Pacific youth training and job opportunities. The intention is for this money to be used by PETA for these initiatives subject to the negotiation of a purchase agreement and the usual rules around that. There's no specific appropriation to PETA in the budget.
The Honourable Annette
Question,
King.
Mr Speaker. What due diligence was undertaken on the one and only shareholder of the private company Pacific Economic Development Agency Limited before the Cabinet approved $4.8 million of taxpayers' money to this company in Budget 2010?
The Honourable Simon Power.
Mr Speaker, on behalf of the Minister of Finance, although I don't have immediate detail on the specific issue raised, I'm sure it was appropriate.
The Honourable Annette King.
Point of order, Mr Speaker.
Point of order, the Honourable Annette King.
I wonder whether you think that's an appropriate answer to say I'm sure it was sufficient when I asked what due diligence was undertaken. I wasn't asking whether it was sufficient or insufficient, but what actually was undertaken.
I hear the Honourable Member. I think, in fairness, though, the Minister is answering on behalf of the Minister of Finance, and he indicated he didn't have the particular details to give a more accurate, to give a more precise answer to the member. The Honourable Annette King.
Will the private company PETA allocated $4.8 million of taxpayers' funding as set out on page 186 of the budget supporting documents be required to report to Parliament under Section 32A of the Public Finance Act, as an organisation like Plunkett, for example, is required to account for expenditure of taxpayers' funding? If not, why not?
The Honourable Simon Power.
Mr Speaker, on behalf of the Minister of Finance, I don't have advice with respect to the Public Finance Act section that the member refers to. What I do know is that a contract that is currently in the process of being negotiated will require all of the normal capacity to deliver, ability to collaborate, accountability and measured outcomes as any purchase agreement for Crown funding would.
The Honourable Annette King.
Was he aware the author of the original PETA proposal has stated as recently as the 29th of June this year that others would have to be engaged to deliver some of the proposals because, quote, PETA won't be able to, end quote, and why would he risk allocating funding to an organisation that will have to hand funding to a third party where it will not be accountable to the taxpayer?
The Honourable Simon Power.
On behalf of the Minister of Finance, no.
The Honourable Annette King.
Point of order, Mr Speaker.
Point of order, the Honourable Annette
Mr Speaker, I have quite a number of questions to ask the Minister. I seek leave to hold them over because the Minister obviously hasn't come prepared to answer any of my questions.
Order. Speaking of the point of order, the Honourable Simon Power.
Well, first of all, perhaps the leave should have been put before the question was asked. Secondly, Mr Speaker, the first part of that question was I aware that such and such and such and such? The answer to that question was no.
Well, no, we don't. No, order. I'm on my feet and members will be silent. I think the Minister has actually pointed out that he did answer the question that was asked, but leave has been sought to have the questions deferred, and the member's perfectly entitled to seek that leave. Would the member like me to put that leave? Point of order, the Honourable
Mr Speaker, I know how good your memory is. You'll recall his answer. He said no. He is answering on behalf of the Minister, not on his own behalf. So he needed to, if he has that information that the Minister isn't aware, then he must have other information he hasn't been able to provide today.
The member makes a perfectly fair point in pointing out the Minister is answering on behalf of another Minister, and therefore the answer means that the other Minister isn't aware, that the actual Minister isn't aware, unless the Minister wishes to correct the answer. That's as the House would take it.
As far as I'm aware, no.
Yeah. Supplementary question, the Honourable... point of order, the Honourable Trevor Mallard.
Speaker, even then he didn't get there?
Oh, order. Order. No, I've ruled he has, and the Honourable member may wish to ask further supplementary.
As far as who's aware?
Supplementary question, Mr Speaker. Did he discuss any proposals from the Pacific Economic Development Agency Limited with the Prime Minister or Georgina Te Heuheu after the Prime Minister met with Mr Pereira Michael Jones, Inga Tumagamala and National MP Sam Lotu-Inga in June 2009? If so, what was the outcome of those discussions?
The Honourable Simon
Speaker, on
Powell.
behalf of the Minister of Finance, I'm sorry I don't have that information with me this afternoon.
Question number 2, Dr. Jackie Blue.